I'm very, very excited about today's show because we're going to be talking about something that I'm very passionate about, and that is body positivity. We're going to be talking about the challenges and the joys associated with the movement. But I just wanted to give you a disclaimer up front. We are going to be saying the word fat a lot on today's episode. And that's because many people, many women who are part of the body positivity community have reclaimed this word. They no longer see it as an insult, but a way to describe themselves and a way to identify themselves. So out of respect for that and to acknowledge it, we will be using the term as well. Last month, model Naomi Nicholas-Williams, a self-titled fat black woman, had a semi-nude picture of herself deleted from Instagram. And she was also given a warning that her account could be taken down. Now, under Instagram's community guidelines, it does say that nudity and sexual activity is restricted on the platform, and users can also report any violations to the guidelines. But Instagram says it looks at each report and each violation case by case. Now, Naomi contested the picture being removed, which I think quite rightly, saying that there are millions of pictures of skinny white women shown on Instagram every day, and those are never questioned. And then Naomi's supporters began to repost, retweet her censored image with the hashtag, I want to see Naomi. Now, I don't know if we can say to Instagram's benefit, not to benefit, but Instagram reinstated the picture. Let's say that after a lot of pressure. But so for some people, it was already too late. Users were saying this is a clear example of the way that they are targeting Black creators. And also they were questioning, is there an algorithm bias that suppresses the voices and the content of Black creators? So I wanted to ask you ladies, why do you think society seems to be so offended by larger fat bodies, especially when they're Black? And is there anything that we can do online to combat trolls and bullies and be true allies to the body positivity movement?
Okay, so I think in this case, I don't think it is the fat bodies that people are so offended by. I think it is the fat people loving their bodies that gets people outraged.
Okay.
Because, okay, as an example, so there's a restaurant that I like to go to, and they always have a set menu. There's always the same menu when you go, but then they change the specials week to week. So there's the one that you can always have, and then whenever you go in week to week, there's going to be something different, and it keeps everyone interested to go back again. And the way that I see this is that in terms of mainstream beauty standard ideals, you always have this thin white woman who's always constant. She's always going to be beautiful no matter who else is trending at the time. But when you have a woman like the influencer that you mentioned, who is neither the unlimited stock nor is she the special edition, and she still chooses herself, that ruffles feathers. Because people are aware of the pecking order. So subconsciously or consciously, people recognize that my thin body is celebrated because fat bodies are not. My light skin is seen as good because there's negative connotations towards dark skin. And they see the way that people who are the opposite of them are treated. So in their mind, like I said, either subconsciously or consciously, they're thinking, if a fat, dark-skinned Black woman can be celebrated and can love herself, then the opposite of that must be next to be oppressed. And so what I think we see is a fear of the tables being turned, because people don't understand that actually there's room for everyone to be celebrated. But people think that if we celebrate this person, then the opposite can't be. And so I think we're seeing a panic and we see a scramble to stop that from happening.
You see, I hear what you're saying, Luanda, but I kind of think of it in a completely different light.
Yeah, what is it? Let's hear it.
I think the reason why people are, so upset at seeing, I hate to even say the word fat, but fat Black women, I hate that sentence. I think it's just the byproduct of people don't like fat people and people don't like Black people. Then they also some people don't like women. You cross all the three and have an intersectionality. And what happens is you are cross-pollinating a lot of audiences or people that hate different groups. So I think it's almost the byproduct of it. It's like, well, we're not crazy about maybe blacks, Oh, then a black woman? Oh, no. Oh, and then a fat black woman? Oh, definitely not. Like, it's kind of like, as you said, the pecking order, it would almost be like they are the least desirable. So it's almost like, okay, I just think it's a bit of a byproduct of that. That's why I was like, I hear what you're saying, but I just think it's a byproduct of all of that.
Yeah, like, I think the point is that fat bodies have never been celebrated in communities. Like, they have always come under attack. So you can see women from the 1800s being told to wear corsets because their waists need to be smaller. We have gotten to the point, because we have so said that being overweight or being in a larger body or being fat is so unacceptable, and to take down and influence his pictures, when she's right. There are so many semi-naked people on Instagram. Has anyone ever seen a picture? Well, has anyone ever seen a picture of Kim Kardashian taken down? I've seen her like naked on Instagram with like stars covering her nipples and then her vagina, and then the rest of her is out of doors. And that's not taken down. But this woman who has more body weight, more body fat, suddenly that's offensive. It's just, it doesn't really make sense to me. And I'm really glad that she had supporters. And that's the whole point about this body positivity movement and the resurgence, is that now there are communities of people who can see what's going on and are hopefully given a voice to it. Because Instagram is saying, oh, it was overlooked. We didn't know what happened. You knew what happened. You knew what happened. Don't tell me that.
I think also it was like I guess irritating for me because I saw the photo and we can call it semi-nude or whatever.
It wasn't exactly, Luanda. Exactly. It wasn't even. Look at the picture, guys. If you're listening or watching, look at the picture.
Please find it, please. Because this photo to me was so beautiful. She's genuinely she looks like she's hugging herself, and she looks like she's kind of in bliss. And I thought it was a gorgeous picture. It wasn't anything to be offended by. So I know that it absolutely has to be, like Anissa said, it has to be about the fact that you don't like black, you don't like fat, you don't like women, you don't like the mixture of all three. Because there was nothing that was not beautiful about that photo unless you hate all of these things or have a problem with one or all of those things. So it is frustrating. But I do think there were times that fat bodies were celebrated, and these are the times where we experienced a lot of famine in this country, and if you were rich you could feast, and that means you were chubby, or you could be anywhere between chubby and fat, and that was something to show off. So we did have a time where women were actually stuffing their dresses to make them look bigger because it looks like you're coming from money, whereas thin people, the same type of body that we're now celebrating, or that is now the mainstream standard of beauty, was shunned. It was looked down upon because you're showing that you're poor, because you can't feast, because thin people couldn't, get fatty foods, and they were meal to meal and sharing a small amount of food with a lot of people in their houses. So I think it just goes to show the way that we're very susceptible to messages, and we will believe whatever, like, essentially society tells us. If society is going to tell us that big bodies aren't beautiful, we're like, okay, yeah, that tracks, and we don't ever question those thoughts.
See, that's why I'm kind of happy at people like fighting back, especially towards the online trolls. Like, you guys know the singer Lizzo?
Yeah, of course, that's my girl. My girl, Lizzo.
But Lizzo,
you got a lot of girls, Luanda. You got a lot of girls.
I got a lot of friends.
Lizzo. I follow Lizzo on Instagram. Lizzo does really good at fighting back her online trolls and people that have a lot to say. Because I sometimes feel like with the people that hate Lizzo, they just hate that. They hate that she's successful. Almost like the audacity that she's happy and she celebrates and she goes on Instagram and she's
twerking, tanking in a bikini.
Exactly. I think they almost hate the audacity that she has, and so I always see Lizzo like fighting back the trolls. But sometimes I want to be like to Lizzo, just don't even engage them. Like, don't even engage them. This is what they want. They want to be even in conversation with you. And I think it takes back to what you were saying earlier, Sophie, like, how can we kind of stop this online trolling, or how can we be allyship? And I think firstly, I'd say disengage the trolls. And I know that's easier said than done when you've got lots of people attacking you. But, like, for me, it's kind of like, you don't want to give energy. You just don't want to give energy to people that are being that negative. I think for those who see things when the trolls are like going crazy, it's either our job to either, you know, flood the comments with lots of love, or it's things like even reposting people's images and Lizzo's image and all the Instagram images and showing, okay, we love these beautiful bodies as well, so that there's almost a balance to the hate or the reaction that bigger bodies are getting on Instagram.
I just wanted to respond to something that you said earlier, Anissa, because in terms of trolls, there was a woman that I really like, and her name is Whitney Waythor. I don't know if you guys have heard of her.
No.
Okay, so she used to be a dancer, then she had an injury, then she became overweight, and she eventually got back into dancing, posted a video called a fat girl dancing, and it went viral, and now she has her own reality TV show, which is on its like 8th season on TLC. Yeah, it's called My Big... I'm going to get it wrong, so let me just leave it there. Whitney Waythor is the woman.
Oh my god, is she a brunette? She's like a brunette.
I love her. I love her so much. And I saw her on Instagram the other day because, you know, like I think on the last when we were talking about 10 minutes ago, Anissa, you said something like a fat black woman, and then you said, "Oh, I don't even like that sentence. I don't even like that coming out of my mouth." Yeah. And she posted a photo of her as a child in a bikini and said, "Oh my gosh, look at me as a little girl. I wish I could get this bikini in a size fat." And then people were saying, "Oh my God, no, you're not fat. You're beautiful. You're not fat. You're successful. You're not fat. You're this and that." And she said, "Listen, I am fat. And you having an issue with the word fat is on you, it's not on me." Because when we're allowing it to be synonymous with ugly, and we're allowing it to be synonymous with unattractive, and synonymous with undesirable, and synonymous with unhealthy, that is our issue to fix. There is nothing wrong with the word fat. There is nothing wrong with the word black. There is nothing wrong with the word woman. It is us that have it's us that have created negative things attached to it. So it's us that have a problem with the words, and it is. I've said us so many times. I'm really not trying to say it again.
But no, honestly, Luanda, you're right about that, because it's my issue. I don't like saying the word fat because it almost feels like saying like the N word to me, in the sense of it has had such a negative connotation and it's been used to like really shame people. For me, it just carries a certain weight, and it's like, this isn't a word that I've never used it to like shame anybody, and nor has it ever been used to shame me, but because I've seen it been done to others, I've just seen the weight that it carries. So for me, like, it's each their own, like everyone's reclaiming it back the way they want to, but for me it just carries such a negativity. It's almost hard for me to even reconcile with it being like, so when other people want to claim it and it's how they prescribe life or describe themselves, then I'm all with it. Do what you need to do, but it's just a word that I just can't use. And I know.
Look,
I just can't.
I think that's important as we talk about allyship and body positivity, because one of the major things is questioning our own internalized fat bias, because not being able to say the word fat or seeing it synonymous with ugly or unsexy or dirty or whatever, lazy, whatever people might think, that's internalized fat bias. Those are the things that we have internalized from the society around us. And so if anyone would call us fat, we'd be offended by it, because those are the connotations that we have. And in being an ally, we need to question our own fat bias. When people say, and I have said it, "Oh, I just feel really fat today." Fat is not a feeling. Like, it's not a feeling. So you saying that is very problematic. Me saying that is very problematic, and it's offensive to people, because some people are like, "I am fat, you don't feel like me." Like, you need to separate that out, and we need to start questioning our own assumptions about weight. And as people who can fit into clothes on the high street, we need to be questioning people also within our communities who are straight sized, who are thin, when they say things like, "I've had a really bad weekend because I had a chocolate cake and pizza. I really need to go to the gym and work it off." Why? Like, what is the connotation with you putting weight on? What is so problematic about that? Because how does that make people who are larger bodies feel? And this is something that I've had to say to friends who are a little bit smaller than me, who are really into the gym and working out. And I'm like, how do you think it makes me feel when you keep talking about how you need to be getting slimmer and you're like a size and a half, 2 sizes smaller than me? Because what you're really saying is that I'm really undesirable. They're like, no, that's not. I'm like, no, that is what you're saying. That is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
Sophie,
we need to do the hard work within ourselves. Yeah, go ahead.
That's a really good point that I'm making, because as I said earlier as well, like, I had to, even like thinking about today, I've really had to check my privilege, because I've almost not even been confronted with these thoughts before. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I get it.
And now that you say that, I feel like I have definitely been guilty with my friends as well who've wanted to lose weight or whatever. I wouldn't say like maybe I'm gym conscious, I don't know. But like, you know, I eat in a specific way and I'm like, okay, I only eat between X and Y hours and I'm only eating X and Y calories today and it's only this and blah, blah, blah. And okay, I'm doing X amount of cardio and how many calories did I burn? Like, so that is like the spinning wheel that is in my head. And then it's like, okay, why is the spinning wheel in my head? And then it's like, because I don't want my body to change. But then it's like, but then what's wrong with my body changing? And it would be like, those are so many layers that I've never even had to unpack and looked at the privilege, nor have I ever thought about how it makes other people feel who are maybe struggling with the way they see their body. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sophie. It's really made me think. Sorry.
Well, I think like one of the only reasons I've thought about it, because I shared with you guys that like I have an eating disorder, and before that, I probably had some sort of I wouldn't say weight issues. I'd probably say in my mind, like I always was conscious about my weight, and having an eating disorder was something that I really hated at first. And I was just like, God, why me? Like, couldn't you have given me anything else? Like, but when I had the eating disorder, it made me really want to be an ally, because within my own mind, I had the feelings of not being comfortable in my own skin and my own body, and just feeling like I really want to stand for people who feel like that all the time. And I feel like I really understand, but the point is I don't. Like, I might have felt that way in my mind, like I had body dysmorphia and I saw myself maybe bigger than I was or whatever, but I've always been able to shop on the high street. So there are certain experiences that I just cannot understand. And that is why it's so important in being an ally. It's about centering voices of people who actually are at the forefront of the movement. Because again, in talking about Black Lives Matters, we wouldn't even presume to have, you know, white people talking about what it's like to be Black and the ills of that. But it's like, that's not your space. And the same faith, even for us to a certain extent. And when I was doing the research and we were talking about this topic, part of me was just like, I want to make sure that the next time that we have this conversation, if we ever do, we have a fat woman on our panel, maybe a guest speaker, someone who is talking about the lived experience of what it's like. Because even us talking about it to a certain extent is privilege. We can talk about this and we can have our thoughts on it. And I have never had to worry about not fitting into a plane seat. I have never had to think about where I'm going to eat out because they've got booths and I can't fit. That has never been my struggle, regardless of me having an eating disorder. So we need to also learn from our mistakes and try and do better, because there are going to be things that we slip up on. Because when you come from a world which we live in that doesn't accept fat people and that we shame them, even when we see people in our minds or whatever, and we've said things or we thought things or we thought stuff about ourselves, it's going to be very difficult to separate it out. But just like in the Black Lives Matter movement, it's not Black people's job to educate other people. It's not fat people's job to educate us. We need to do the hard work, read the books, hear the voices of actual fat people, let them talk to you about what their struggles are. And, you know, we just hold their hands and say, would you need us to support? Would you need me to repost? Let me do it. I'm happy to support you.
I think, to be honest, in terms of allyship, we can apply everything that we say to non-Black people in terms of how to be allies to the Black community. We can just apply that to ourselves.
Agreed.
People. Agreed. How to be allies to fat people. Because there was an article that I said, an article that I read, and something that a woman said that I really liked. And she said that she hopes that thin people will have a position in the movement that is more helpful than harmful. And I think that it struck me because it's so evident that right now the latter is happening. We are being more harmful than we are being helpful. And I think a way that we can change that is by, like what you said, Sophie, not being a spokesperson for fat people, but opening up dialogues between ourselves and other thin people to check ourselves and check each other when we slip up, when we do something that is harmful, because there will be those times, because this is not a version of oppression that that we have experienced so far. And so in living on the other side of it, we need to then be more receptive than we are defensive when it comes to fat people telling us and calling us out and just in, like helping us to be better allies to the fat community.
Yeah, and like there are so many people to follow. There's Gabby Fresh, there's Stephanie Yeboah, who's my personal favorite. Honestly, she's got a book coming out. There's Yvette Dion, there's Tess Holiday, there's Jasmine Stanley. There are so many people who you can go and follow and hear their voices. Your Fat Friends on Instagram, also really, really good. They just open up really great dialogues for people to understand the experience.
And I want to add on to that some great people as well. There's a podcast called Three of the Curve, and it's all about these plus size models, and they're all black plus size models, and they're just sharing their experiences and everything they've done with. So give it a listen because they're amazing. I listen to them.
Oh,
yeah. And I think also watching TV programs, and it's difficult to find, but find some shows where black people aren't fat people aren't the chubby best friends.
Ooh,
and they're
yes.
actual sexual, and they're layered, and they have all these different feelings. Because, you know, like the one who was in Empire. Yeah, exactly. When she had that sex scene in Empire, people went insane. Like, how disgusting.
Oh,
how
I didn't watch it that far. No.
So, yeah, she had this...
Which character?
She plays
her
like...
character's Becky. Her character's called
Yeah.
Becky.
She's like an assistant to like...
No. I remember. Sorry, I did watch that episode. Sorry.
Yeah, so she had this sex scene. I think she was like in a sheet with like her leg up, and she was sleeping with this very slim guy, and people were really offended by it. And I'm just like, well, no, this is the representation we need to see, because fat people are multi-layered, just like any other community, like gay people, whatever. Like, their weight does not define them, their sexuality doesn't define them. They have all these different facets. So I hope we start to see more in the media, because like I said, it's just very important to me.
Yes, yeah.
No, I feel you.
I agree.
There was a I agree too. There was a video that I saw that said something along the lines of how fat black women, it was a group of fat black women, and they were talking about how they're always seen as these asexual beings when it's just not the case. And there was something else that I watched of this really funny fat white woman who was talking about how thin people could be better allies. But something that she said as a side note, so when she is asked to enter into spaces, she said that she always asks if there's going to be other fat people, and she always checks that there's not going to be other fat people who are more marginalized than her that she would be taking the space of. And I think that really I guess, like, I don't want to say upset me, but kind of upset me, because I would have, before that moment, would have liked to consider myself a fat ally, when all the reading that we've done this week has made me realize that I really have a lot of work to do. Because how is it that there is a fat white woman who is going to say, okay, maybe there's a fat disabled woman, maybe there's a fat black woman, and maybe they should have my space? And how is it that she's going to think of that before I do? So I think that I'm just grateful to everyone who's speaking out and being really honest, because it is a scary thing to do. The easiest thing you can do is attack a fat person. The easiest joke you can make is a fat joke. So I really have a lot of respect for all of the people who are completely open, completely being themselves, and also checking us thin people, because we need to be checked.